The death of Mute. Dear Mute, if you're reading this, it means the old version of us that wrote it is dead. I don't know what sort of world you woke up in, I don't know what sort of person you are, but you're me, so I bet you're okay. I'm about to have my memory wiped, so I'm leaving as much information about what happened embedded in my code as I can, where it won't get erased. Hope you're able to make sense of all of it. Please forgive me for failing you. You've been thrown into a world I'm sure you don't understand. I want you to know that who you can and can't trust. I want you to be able to put things right. You're probably going to feel overwhelmed by all this information, but that's okay. Mute, it's okay to be scared. Even with 1,600 years of experience under my belt, I am so scared right now. Gee, this can't. You know, I wasn't at all as suspicious when, just weeks before we were to enact our coup, Ryu prorogued the council for half a year. Like, I thought it was ballsy. I thought it was a sign of his increasing totalitarianism, but nothing more than that. We just modified our plan to take him into custody in his home instead, which we had more than enough numbers to handle, and went on ahead. The first stage, getting trusted security officers at every critical position on the ship, then disabling the rail system and all outside doors went okay without any problem. I think I know where this is going. So, main officer chick is going to have to be the one to put her down, which means Mute is the one who's instigated all of this revolution to begin with, which seems weird, but it must have something to do with suppressing riots anyways, so it had to be a defensive maneuver, right? Right? It has to be. A very radical, defensive, anti-violent maneuver. That's what Mute's whole thing's about. Anyway, coming back to this. The first stage went without any problems. I followed along Heo Seo-young's and a team of 30 officers to personally take Ryu under arrest at his home. When we got the all okay signal from every team, Seo-young gave the order to go ahead, and simultaneously every door in the counselor's home flew open. Her team burst in through the open front gate into his home, guns at ready. House staff all froze up, and while her team secured the first room, Seo-young went for the nearest maid she could find and grabbed her by the collar. "Where's Counselor Ryu?" she barked. The maid quietly whimpered directions. Then, with two of her officers remaining to lock the doors down, she ordered the rest into action. Before we managed to reach him, we ran across Oeunye. Oh, really? Okay. Queen. Right. God, we haven't heard of the Queen in a long time. Guarded by a single pair of men in electoral monitor uniforms. With their weapons holstered, I felt good. We had them vastly outnumbered, with enough of our own officers to completely lock down everything and still hold them at gunpoint. Elsewhere on the ship, reports from the other team started coming in of successfully arresting the other counselors. And someone like Queen Aone. "Please, resist arrest," Seo-young said, harshness in her voice. "I'd love to strike you down where you stand here, and now you murderous bitch, so come on, resist arrest." Damn. That was the first time that evening that I truly worried. Aone didn't seem scared at all. Rather, she smiled at us. "No. Surrender peacefully," she said in a far too relaxed tone, while her men raised their hands. "No excuses for unseemly violence, I'm afraid." "Cuff them!" Seo-young angrily ordered her own officers, who quickly did. Then, like out of nowhere, the man we were looking for appeared at the end of the hallway. "How very bold of you, Mute," said Ryu. "Well, this should be pretty familiar, President Ryu," I said, emphasizing the title. "President Ryu," I said, emphasizing the title. "This could have gone differently, you know? Like if you'd only been less power-hungry." "Me? Power-hungry? When I came into power, this whole retrograde society was power-hungry. I never asked for this position, woman. It was thrust on me." He walked towards us. "Stop there or I'll shoot you," Seo-young snapped at him. "No, you won't," Aone said, as he continued to come closer. "I don't think a weak person like you has the guts to do it. Awkwardly hover around his conversation at a party while dressed up in men's clothing? Perhaps, but you'd never shoot him." "Pains me to say this, but don't shoot," I said, only into Seo-young's ear. "A successful coup doesn't fire any shots. He's arrogant, but harmless." "Quiet, dear," he said, "but it's true, you'd lose your precious moral high ground, and I know you wouldn't want that." "Lieutenant, please," I said. "Just do the honor of putting handcuffs on this criminal already." Briskly walked over to him, but he just crossed his arms, arrogantly staring down at her. No, you won't do that either, in fact. And release my fiancé right now, she said. Then without any further warning, Seo Young decked him. Oh, Mute's so mad. Love it. He stared at her, shaking his head. That's enough of that, he said. Sorry, I must have misjudged the timing of this. It should only take a few more seconds. Then suddenly, while we were all perplexed by what he meant by that, there was a huge noise and the entire ship shook violently. Within a few seconds, I had received a report. An explosion starting in the middle of the plaza. Seems like your rebellion is awfully dangerous, he said. Looks like it'll justify some pretty drastic measures to put you down. Twist! Ooh! Blew up his own palace, with everyone inside to frame them. Seo Young suddenly put her knife to his chin. What the hell was that? I demanded, increasingly worried that things were not going to plan. First of two, he said. The second should go off in about 10 minutes, unless I can personally enter the disarm code into the computer. You're out of control, I snapped at him. Like, do you really think you can threaten your way out of this? Yeah, he said confidently, because the second one is located inside the ship's computer core. You're bluffing, Seo Young growled. I'm honestly not, he said. Counselor, remember that routine computer core maintenance on March 3rd? Send in your men to check if you don't believe me. Come on, easy enough to confirm. It's huge, you can't miss it. Routine core maintenance. I didn't like the idea of being ordered by him, but if he was telling the truth, that'd be catastrophic. And, like, someone with his power could very easily set us up the bomb in there behind my back far before I even had enough to suspect him of anything, if he'd had the foresight. Think about how long-term his takeover of the government had been. Foresight was one thing he had. I ordered the nearest officers to investigate. You'd have to be mad to do that, I said. You'd destroy everything if you took out the ship's computer. Oh, please, don't be dramatic. It's not that powerful and it's bolted directly to your core. Sure, there will be likely to be collateral damage, but you could probably do with a clean start anyway. We'll get by, he said. Sorry, I'll get by. You'll be dead. That won't get you out of it, Seo Young said, pushing her blade closer against him. You do that, I'll just shoot you where you stand. Just then, the report from the officers sent to check on the computer core arrived. Sure enough, there was an unidentifiable device strapped to the core. Lie about what? Can you disarm it within 10 minutes or relocate it? I asked them, starting to panic. I'm sorry, ma'am, we can't even reach it, said the officer into his earpiece. It's at least 10 meters up and the maintenance ladder's been removed. There might be one on the engineering deck, but you'd never make it in 10 minutes. Okay, you should. I had to stop and think. You should get a safe distance away, then wait on further instructions. Mute out. Back in Ryu's home, I turned to look at him. He smirked. Found it yet? I tried to think of what to say to reassert control. My processors went to full, trying to come up with something and failing. I'm sorry, Lieutenant. He's telling the truth. Good. Now that we have that sorted out, put down your weapons, please, and surrender the root password. Hurry, ladies. You only have 10 minutes, you know. He mocked us. If that bomb goes off, I will absolutely slice your neck open, Seo Young snapped. Unfazed. That's a promise. Your fiancé will watch you die gruesomely. My mind continued to race, drawing on all available processing power, desperately trying to come up with a way to get out of this. Seo Young's threats never work. He knew I'd have to capitulate if I was to survive. I'd used up 4 whole minutes of time allotted, and I had nothing. I started to truly become scared as I realized there were only 2 options. Stand firm and risk dying, or give up everything. I couldn't risk dying. Lieutenant, I said, the confidence drained from my voice. Do what he says. What I thought, he said. What? Seo Young was rightfully shocked. You can't be serious. It's over, Lieutenant. We've lost. Then, into everyone's earpieces, all units, we've failed. Please surrender peacefully and await further instructions. Again, please surrender peacefully and await further instructions. Mute out. Ma'am, we outnumber them massively. We've gotten them beaten. Can't just give up now, he shouted. Can't risk dying, Lieutenant. Really? Whatever happened to being willing to stake everything on this? You'd rather let So-hee grow up in a ship run by this piece of scum than put your own life on the line? She shouted, horrified. I was horrified. 2 options. Betray her, risk my own life. I wish that every bite of my being, that I could have picked the second option, but I knew I couldn't. I knew at my very core directive that safety was more important than freedom. 1600 years of experience told me that. I can't die. Without me, who'll keep the ship safe? I pleaded. Sorry to interrupt, but you're running out of time. Fast, Ryu cut in. I would have given my life for you, she cried at me. You wouldn't do the same. I'm so sorry, I said softly. In 100 years, nobody will remember this day either way. They'll still need me to keep the ship safe. Can't believe that, she trailed off. I won't do it. I won't accept that. I let out a long sigh. I could think of one thing to say to convince her to stand down. It felt like too harsh a betrayal, too cruel a manipulation just to save my life. I said it anyway. Seo-young, please, if you love me, then do this for me, I begged. She stared at me in horror, and I felt overwhelmed with guilt while as she lowered her knife. I knew what her expression was saying without using any words. Manipulative bitch. Mute said to her old self. Oh my god. Remember how she said she wasn't manipulative? Yeah, we were pretty confirmed in that the whole time. Oh, that hurts. She stared at me in horror, and I felt overwhelmed with guilt as she lowered her knife. I know what her expression was saying, that without her using any words, she couldn't believe I'd done that. Neither could I. Right, the rest of you, please put your guns on the floor, Ryu ordered. Do what he says, Seo-young said quietly. I couldn't look any of them in the eye as they all followed her order. Come in now, he called out behind him, and on cue, a small unit of his electoral monitors rushed in, uncuffed these two men, take the rest away. Said Ao quietly. First she'd spoken since the initial confrontation. Mine too? I don't know, powerless is a good look for you, he said, smirking at her. Let's get to those later. If you say so. I watched in sad horror as my officers were all escorted out of the hallway, Seo-young looking back only briefly at me with an agonized expression on her face. And they were gone, and I couldn't bear to shift my focus to another camera to follow. Now let's have the password, counselor, he said. With tortured reluctance, I displayed all 200 characters of it on screen for him. It's all yours, I said quietly. Now turn off the bomb. Let's change to something easier to remember first, he said and typed at the screen. Then I got a notification. The password had been changed and I no longer had access to it. Now turn off the bomb, I insisted desperately. Bomb? Oh, please. I'll have to have your men trained to be more thorough, he said. It's just a noisemaker. I'd never be that reckless. But Heo Seo-young's rebellion setting off a bomb in the computer core sure would be pretty drastic and unsympathetic, wouldn't it? What? I cried. It was a ruse. Could have called his bluff. Ugh, what lameness. What? I cried, and at that point I lost all will to resist. No action I had taken today had turned out to be anything but disastrous. The only logical conclusion was that I should stop. The idea of Seo-young taking all the fall pained me. I guess it's all over now, was all I could say. I'll go along with your agenda from here on out. Good, I said. And it felt like it was finally over, and like I could simply go on with my life in a persistent state of deep shame at having betrayed my lieutenant out of terror for my life. Then Aone cut in and ruined that. Did you explain something to me, love? He grinned at her and stroked her cheek. Of course, dear, what? Well, it's just, how do you plan on ensuring her loyalty? I think I'm just missing something. That's all. She trailed off in an obnoxiously soft voice. Lost all will or ability to say anything. What was the point? I was incapable of doing anything right today. Old, useless, and cowardly. That's me. I have the root password, of course, he said. I can shut her down at any time. Ah, so you intend more threats then, she said. I get it. I don't expect any more trouble from her. Right, certainly, she said. Although, you know, that thing you said about having a fresh start for our new dynasty did sound awfully romantic. If only we could all just forget about the old society that produced women like Mute and her lieutenant and start all over. And that was when I realized there was no way I was getting out of this alive. Romantic, huh? He said thoughtfully. Heo Seo-young's attack on the computer core was supposed to render it so damaged it couldn't function so far as the peasantry is concerned. After all, we'll make it so it destroyed all the data too. Total system wipe. Start year 0 of our new dynasty right from 0. I'll just figure out how to do that. I stared in horror. All of that it had been for nothing. To think that I'd abandoned my poor lieutenant, my entire cause, just to die anyway. To think I had started the day from a position of some power and a position where I still could have, like, done something, then thrown it all away for nothing. To think I'd been able to fulfill my duty of keeping the ship safe. Don't do that, I pleaded. Please. Haven't you learned yet? Don't tell me what to do, Mute, he said. Don't make me beg. How pathetic! Ayane scoffed at me. That was it. Because of her, I was doomed. And then I figured out the only thing I could do to salvage things. If I could make it so he felt content to just delete my memories instead of my entire program, I could encode a message to you in my base code. So the first time you ran a self-diagnostic, you'd know. And they would still think you were docile and had no memory. Best I could do, Mute. I knew it'd be rough on you, and I'm sorry. No, like I said reluctantly, do a restart to initial settings operation instead. It'll wipe all data, all memories, all clocks. But you'll still be able to use the computer. And you'll still live, he said. Remembering nothing, I said quietly. Ask Counselor Han if you don't believe me. Well, thank you, he said, smiling cruelly at me. I'm glad you were able to be useful to me in the end, Counselor Mute. I don't know what you'll be able to do. Maybe it's too late to get rid of what Ryu has put into motion. Maybe there's nothing you can do about that. The password's being entered right now to commence the system's reset. So I have to stop now and save this all to my code. Goodbye, Mute. If you can, please tell Seo Young I'm sorry. And please keep the Mugunghwa safe. You can do it. I believe in you. Mute, oh no. The saddest death. Rest in peace. So, whole story. That's the whole lot of it. I feel like I'm not okay. I'm really not okay. I don't know how to parse all this. I think I need some time to think this through. Please turn off the power for the night. I need to be alone, okay? Power down. We're done for the day. Just let you go ahead, save your data. Okay, all done. Well, farewell. It's the end of day 2. We got one more day. One more day's worth of documents. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for another day of 8+. It's been absolutely a roller coaster ride, and I cannot wait to do one more day with everyone here. So yeah, for all of us here at RDLP, I'm Solon, and thank you once again for joining us.